GM, another day on Bitcoin. The pump that we had yesterday didn't actually succeed. We were at like 110,000, but it didn't actually succeed. But it doesn't really matter because the uptrend actually continues. If you look at the daily uptrend here, the daily uptrend continues. In order to break below this uptrend, we need to break below the 107,000 level. I'm going to show you today why I think that the next move, the next big move, has to be an up move. I'm going to show you exactly all the factors that basically show me that it would be a little bit crazy if the next move wasn't actually an up move. So I'm going to show you all the factors that are going to do that. Then I'm also going to talk about one altcoin, which I think a lot of us have been neglecting, or maybe more specifically, a lot of you have been neglecting, because I know I've got this altcoin in my portfolio, and I think it's about to actually start running again. I'm going to show you exactly what that altcoin is and why I think it actually is safe to buy it. Anything else we're talking about today, Josh? We're talking about FTX putting more money into the altcoin market. We're talking about GameStop putting money into Bitcoin. What else are we talking about today? We will talk about TON as well. Yeah, we'll talk about TON as well. What else should we talk about? Let's take a look at the bubbles. That'll show us exactly what we should talk about. We should probably talk about SPX and ENS and why ENS is moving up. We should probably also talk about a lot of red bubbles here today, bro. A lot of red bubbles. Anyway, listen, if that sounds good to you and you've got nothing better to do in your lives, then subscribe to our channel and let's get the show on the road, guys. You know, some people are complaining that I'm late and other people are just thanking me that I actually am here, bringing you crypto love and crypto wisdom. The reason is we only start when there's 1,000 people in the chat. So if it's not me that's late, it's you guys that are late. We only start when there's 1,000 people in the chat. That's how the show actually works. Anyway, as I said to you guys, big show today. I'm going to talk to you about why the next move for Bitcoin is inevitably up. It really has to be up. And we're going to talk about that one altcoin that I really think has been neglected or certainly maybe has been forgotten about. And maybe it's time to start focusing on this altcoin again. So if that sounds good to you, I need you guys to smash the like button, obliterate the like button. I'm going to start with the alpha so we can get through it as quickly as possible. So looking at the bubbles, we have a bit of a mixed day. I'd say more red than anything else. And that's because yesterday when the show was on, we were breaking 110,000 on Bitcoin. So as you can see, let me actually take you to here we go. We were like 110, 111. Like we were much higher, right? The thing is that pump didn't actually materialize. And I mean, I think we need to check in on our man. I think we need to check in on James. So right now, if I look at James on Hyper Tracker, let's have a look. Okay, so he's reduced his position. Now it's only a $200 million position. He's down $819,000 and his funding is about $400,000. They've tried to liquidate him a couple of times, but he's still here. He is, he's an absolute degen gambler. We know that. Let's see how he does. Anyway, yesterday, as you guys know, was the first day of the Bitcoin conference. Actually, it wasn't really the first day of the Bitcoin conference. It's what they call the industry day, which is actually the most important day because it's like the day when all the whales and the titans of industry actually get this like whale pass, which allows them to attend the Bitcoin conference. In general, the mood at the conference is absolutely amazing. 𝗕𝗏 says there's extreme optimism, there's a fresh start vibe, there's unity, there's innovation. Companies are moving to the States due to regulatory clarity. Imagine that. Very strong government representation. Today, JD Vance is actually speaking there. David Sachs actually spoke yesterday. And the general cycle top sentiment is $170,000 to $250,000 by September 2025. I do think that that's correct, but I don't think that that's going to be the cycle top. I think the $250,000 is a good place to be, or a good level, but I don't think that that's going to be the cycle top. And the reason why I don't think that that's going to be the cycle top is because I believe that there's no more merit in the 4-year cycle. And to that end, I'm going to drop a video this weekend around my thoughts around the 4-year cycle and why the 4-year cycle may not even actually exist anymore and what's going to replace the 4-year cycle. So stay tuned for that this weekend. Also, while we're here and we're talking about weekend, so you all know Bitfunded, right? So you know Bitfunded is this platform where effectively you are using other people's money to trade, but you only get that. So what happens is you buy a challenge. Let's say you want to have a $15,000 portfolio. You pay $149. If you get more than 8% in the first stage, you go to the second stage. If you get more than 5% in the second stage, you go to the third stage. In the third stage, you're playing with other people's money and you keep 90% of the profits. Now, there's a way to beat this. So if you buy a challenge today, you're going to get one for free. And then Dylan has found a way to actually beat Bitfunded and to get you through the challenges. And he's done it 3 out of 3. So he's taken 3 accounts. He's qualified all 3 accounts. So he literally has found a way to beat the system. So tune in on Saturday. So on Saturday, I'm going to do a show on why the 4-year cycle doesn't matter anymore. And Dylan's going to do a show on how to actually beat Bitfunded. And if you buy with the link below, you buy one and you actually get a second account of exactly the same amount for free. Anyway, let's go back to the conference. So 𝗕𝗏, our man, is there. He's representing. I didn't want to travel because I didn't want to travel 72 hours to be there for 72 hours. So like for me to fly to Vegas would have been 36 hours to get to Vegas and then 36 hours to get back from Vegas. And I would have only been there for 72 hours. So I was like, no, I'm not actually doing that. Especially because I'm going to 𝗕𝗏's wedding in Hungary next week. So that's it. Artemis wants to know Dylan's Bitfunded secret. Tune in on Saturday, but have an account ready so you're able to trade. Anyway, news from the Bitcoin conference. You can see 𝗕𝗏 actually sat down yesterday with what's this guy's name? He's the guy, the head of the digital assets for Trump. Bo Hines. His name is Bo Hines. So he sat down yesterday with Bo Hines. You can see the camera setup, the Banter camera setup was absolutely amazing. The mood at the Bitcoin conference is incredibly bullish. Just listen to some of the things that are happening there.
What 4 months make. In terms of giving that green light for innovation to actually happen, you're going to hear me say a lot, the train has left the station. So, thank you. Bitcoin is here to stay. Blockchain is here to stay. And, the unfortunate part about government traditionally, it doesn't lead, it follows. And a lot of it is because you don't have a lot of the kind of the subject matter experts who are literally coming into government. And so that's why the fact that this administration has taken the lead to form these task forces to actually bring business and the expertise into those conversations, we're literally playing catch up from the last 10 years where things didn't happen. Now things are happening.
So the mood's bullish. I mean, look, she had no choice, but she couldn't have come there and said, look, Bitcoin's going to fail. So the mood is completely bullish. People talking about big allocations. Just listen to the numbers that Hunter Horsley from Bitwise actually talks about, because these numbers are real numbers.
So on the topic of flows, I guess my message to all of you, and I think something that Mike and Justin will also be very familiar with, is that the game has changed in 2025. We're entering a new chapter in 2025 with the change in the regulatory circumstances in the US. Huge swaths of traditional investors can participate in this asset class in Bitcoin for the first time. So UTXO put out, a great firm put out a report on this, putting some numbers to that. But I think something that's sometimes hard for people to fathom is just how massive the opportunity is. At Bitwise, we serve a lot of wealth managers, for instance. And in the US, wealth managers manage between $30 and $60 trillion. And if wealth managers wind up allocating 1% to the space on behalf of their clients, helping their clients access the opportunities here, that's hundreds of billions of dollars.
That's $300 billion. They're talking about massive numbers coming in. And that's just some of the sentiment there. We also had the announcements yesterday. We had the Trump announcement that they're going to be raising $2.5 billion to invest in Bitcoin. And I think what you're starting to see now is you're starting to see this like competition, not competition, but you're getting these MicroStrategy, I'll call them competitors, but in this case, it's the only case that I know where your competitor is actually your best friend, because the more MicroStrategy competitors that happen, the higher the MicroStrategy chart actually goes. And so what you're starting to see now is you're starting to see a whole slew of these firms that are created to raise money around Bitcoin, right? Or to raise money for Bitcoin. That's like the hot thing now in Wall Street. You can see like even small announcements. Like there was an announcement today by GameStop. I don't know if I've got the announcement. Yeah, here we go. So there was an announcement today by GameStop that they purchased 4,710 Bitcoin, which is $500 million worth of Bitcoin. So effectively what they did was they took 10% of their balance sheet and they put 10% of their balance sheet into Bitcoin. There it is, $4.7 billion that there was on their balance sheet. They put 10% of that into Bitcoin. And the reason why these guys are actually doing that is if you look at, let's look at their share price. So let's quickly just call up their share price and see what it actually does to their stock. I haven't looked today, but I'm almost sure that that GameStop Corporation is up today. It's down. It was up. Look at that. And now it's actually down. So generally, these companies are going to carry on buying Bitcoin because it actually does a lot for their treasury. I guess that the numbers must have been out here. I guess the numbers must have been out here. And this is just the sell the news correction. But what you're starting to do, someone says, yeah, they had an extra $1.5 billion raise. Yeah, we know that. So okay, so they would have had $1.5 billion plus $5 billion. They would have had $6.5 billion on their balance sheet. So it's now becoming like a fashionable thing to create a Bitcoin vehicle or a vehicle to buy cryptocurrency. We saw Joe Lubin announcing his vehicle yesterday, which was the Ethereum vehicle. I don't know if we've got here. It's this announcement over here where SharpLink Gaming announced a $425 million private placement to initiate an Ethereum treasury strategy. Interestingly enough, I did some digging here as to how the guys actually did this. But if you look at all the investors over here, right, the one common thing about all these investors is that they all had ETH. And I think that what happened here was these guys put in their ETH into this treasury company. So it's almost like this company said, look, you've got ETH, you're holding ETH. Why not give us the ETH? In return, we'll give you shares in this company. And we know that this company will trade above the net asset value of your ETH. So in actual fact, what you actually landed up doing was you landed up taking your ETH and leveraging them up. So it's a trick here. And I really need you guys to understand this trick because I think it's a very smart trick. And if you know the trick, you won't be one of the people that actually get liquidated. So again, I'm going to repeat it again for those guys who weren't paying attention. Think about it like this. There's this company. This company basically does nothing. This company is called SharpLink Gaming. Maybe once upon a time it was a good gaming company, but now it pretty much does nothing. They go to a whole lot of investors and they say, look, do you have any ETH? They say, yes, I've got ETH. Why don't you give us your ETH? In return for that ETH, $425 million worth of ETH, we will give you shares in this new company. Okay, you think, wow, great idea. You ask yourself a question, will this company ever trade under net asset value? The answer is probably not, right? Because why? It's a leveraged ETH strategy, right? So you say, look, if the company trades under net asset value, then it's an arbitrage. You buy it and you basically hold it until one day they pay a dividend. However, if the strategy works, you can take your ETH and you can basically get a higher return on your ETH because you put in $425 million worth of ETH. But then because the share price goes up because of all the excitement, like just look at what happened to, what is the ticker symbol here? Just quickly look at what it is. SBET. So let's look at what happened to the SBET ticker yesterday. So all that's happening here is that the people that are, look at what happened here yesterday. It's the people that are early to the party, or these people that come in here, basically take their ETH, throw the ETH into this, and then they get a leverage return on the ETH. And that's effectively what's starting to happen with these vehicles that are starting to raise money to buy crypto assets. Obviously, Michael Saylor started it. Everyone said, wow, this is an amazing playbook. Then you had 21. Well, then you had MetaPlanet in Japan. Also very good, following the Michael Saylor playbook. Then you had 21, or 21 basically going, hold on a second. We can't just sit back and watch this when we've got Cantor Fitzgerald's money, SoftBank's money, whatever else. We'll also start one of these companies. Now, the thing is, you're going to get a whole lot of these companies. You're going to get like, I don't know, 100 of these Bitcoin treasury companies, ETH treasury companies, and Sol treasury companies. Now, the question is, how do they differentiate themselves from one another? Well, the answer is very simple. They take more risk. So you take, there's one asset class where they take a little bit of risk. Then another one launches and says, okay, well, how am I going to beat my competitor? And so the way to beat your competitor is to be more risky, take more leverage. And so ultimately, I actually kind of agree with Jason Yanovitz here. He says the game was simple. Access capital markets to acquire Bitcoin, then leverage financial engineering to generate a premium on the underlying Bitcoin. And Saylor, of course, nailed this. Now, in the past few weeks, we're seeing a lot of these now for ETH, for Sol, more of them for Bitcoin. What's going to happen in the next few weeks and months, we'll see these assets in the top 50. That's when the game actually gets stupid. You take a holding company, seed it with $10 or $20 million, reverse merge into a public shell company, raise more, then buy the token, hire a mini Michael Saylor, and keep going like crazy, right? So he says they'll have to differentiate themselves, and the only way they'll differentiate themselves will be with taking more and more leverage. This starts great, and then investors seeding these companies will make good money. It's nearly impossible to lose money on these deals right now. But retail will eventually get hosed. So this is exactly the same as every other scheme. The early insiders, the people that participated in MicroStrategy, the people that participated in this ETH vehicle that I've just shown you, they made huge money. But now this is going to become a trend. And as this trend starts to develop, these companies are going to get more and more risky until eventually this thing is going to break down and there's going to be no more demand because retail is just going to carry on getting burnt. Same as meme coins, same as ICOs, same as every other trend. I think if you're getting in now, you're still getting in pretty early. If you got into MicroStrategy, when we got into MicroStrategy, and if you're getting into these vehicles now, we're still early. But watch out for when this thing actually implodes. Because what I think is going to happen at some point in the cycle is that when this model implodes, then I think that it will take down a lot of the industry with it. And we'll actually do a separate show looking at specifically the risks of these companies that are starting to buy the assets. Think about it like a trend. For now, it's like just a normal trend. For now, it's like, yeah, we're doing good. MicroStrategy did a proof of concept. Now people are coming to you and saying, hey, do you want to invest in like an early stage MicroStrategy or an early stage MicroStrategy for ETH? Obviously, the answer is yes, because people that invested in MicroStrategy made a bundle. Problem is that as more and more people do this and they take more and more leverage, the chance of getting blown out of the market, of these companies getting blown out of the market is very high. And I think when that happens, a lot of retail is going to get wrecked, and that's going to take down the assets in the market. I don't think that's going to happen now, though. I think we're at the beginning of the cycle, not the end of the cycle. But we have to pay attention to this because I do think that in every cycle, in every 4-year cycle that we have in Bitcoin, the cycle deleverages because of the cycle ends because of a deleveraging event. So I want to quickly talk about the deleveraging event in the last cycle. In the last cycle, we had multiple deleveraging events. The first one was Luna. Luna was effectively creating money where money didn't exist. That's a leveraging event. Then you had a second creation of money where money didn't exist, and that was these lending and borrowing companies. A lot of them were leveraged against Luna. And then you had FTX, which was leveraged against money that Sam Bankman-Fried actually created. And that's what ended the last cycle. If you look at the cycle before, what ended the cycle before was these ICOs that created this fake wealth where wealth actually didn't exist. It was fake leverage where leverage actually didn't exist. So every cycle ends because of a deleveraging event. And my suspicion is that the end of this cycle won't be a 4-year cycle, but it'll be the deleveraging of these highly leveraged crypto treasury companies becoming deleveraged. And I'll break that down for you and I'll show you exactly why I think that's going to happen. But keep your eyes open for it. That wasn't exactly what I wanted to talk about today. We digressed a little bit. But keep your eyes open for that because, yes, today we should celebrate because you are creating incremental buyers in the market and you are creating leverage vehicles for retail investors to be, and institutional investors to invest in crypto. But in the long term, the problem is that leverage ends cycles. And I do think that the leverage in this cycle is going to be these leverage vehicles trying to copy Michael Saylor. And the reason why they're going to try, the way that they're going to try and beat Michael Saylor is they're going to try and take on more leverage. Because that's going to be the only thing. Michael Saylor is on X leverage. We'll go slightly higher. Now, the thing with MicroStrategy is it's going to take 4 years of a Bitcoin price being down for 4 years in order for Michael Saylor's strategy to get liquidated. How does that work? Just think about the fact that he's got this debt with varying maturities, and he's taken a bet that if Bitcoin stays above a certain price, he will be able to refinance the debt. But if it goes below, he won't be able to refinance the debt. And now what I think is going to happen, so he's got a 4-year runway of a bad cycle for Bitcoin to refinance his debt. These other companies aren't going to have the luxury of those 4 years. And so you're going to get them blowing up. As long as there's not a lot of money in one individual one, I think we're okay. But ultimately, right now, let them accumulate and just make sure that you sell before they start deleveraging. Because when they start deleveraging, one will start deleveraging. That one that starts deleveraging will push the price down and create a supply overhang, and that will cause the second one to deleverage, and the third one to deleverage, and the fourth one to deleverage, and it'll become a mass deleveraging event, which will happen at the end of the cycle. And that, for me, is when this cycle actually ends and what will cause the end of the cycle. Anyway, but we're not there. We're still actually at the beginning of the cycle. The beginning of the cycle is when these companies all spring up, and now we're seeing that frenzy. And if you're a crypto buyer, it's the best frenzy that you can have, because it is a frenzy of people wanting to chuck money at vehicles that are just going to go and straight out buy crypto. And we saw the first ETH one yesterday, or the first major ETH one yesterday, which was launched with Joe Lubin. We've seen a host of these other Bitcoin ones that have been launched. We've seen some Solana ones actually get launched. It's the best case scenario for this part of the cycle, but the worst case scenario for the last part of the cycle. But we'll look out and we'll do a show about the warning signs and what you actually need to know about that. See, here's another one. Here's another one of these. It's a Solana Strategies has filed a preliminary base shelf prospectus allowing up to $1 billion to go and get financings, up to $1 billion to actually go and raise SOL. So they're going to land up buying SOL, and they're going to leverage and leverage and leverage like MicroStrategy, exactly. Yeah, so that's that. Also, we've got Senator Cynthia Lummis, who came out yesterday and said, first, they want to get through the Genius Act, right? The Genius Act is a stablecoin act, and she thinks that the Genius Act will actually get through by Monday or something like that. So first, they want to get through the Genius Act. Once they're through with the Genius Act, they're going to move on to the next act, which is actually the act that gets the US to actually buy 1 million Bitcoin, or 5% of the total Bitcoin supply. Listen to what she said yesterday.
Bringing the Bitcoin Act to the attention of the American people and the world. President Trump supports the bill, and he has a team in the White House working on digital asset issues, everything from stablecoin to market structure to the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And they will probably roll out in that order. The Senate Banking Committee has passed the stablecoin bill out of committee. We're getting close to being ready to have it on the floor. We've worked for untold hours with the minority party to satisfy them, and we should be voting on it the week we get back from this break. Then we'll do market structure, and then we'll do the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And at that time, we'll be calling on you to help members of Congress in your states understand the importance. It's so important strategically to our country. Other countries are moving in the direction of establishing strategic Bitcoin reserves. The United States needs to lead in this area.
So they are talking about 5% of the US actually buying 5% of the Bitcoin supply. David Sachs says that all you need to do to get this passed is to convince 𝗙𝗵𝗪𝗏 that it's a good idea. But we know that 𝗙𝗵𝗪𝗏 actually seeded, he's invested in Tether, and he seeded 21. So, I mean, just listen to what David Sachs said.
Great if the U.S. government started proactively acquiring Bitcoin.
What do you guys think about that?
By the way, you saw Nakamoto there. Nakamoto, the organizer of David Bailey, the organizer of the conference, he is that Nakamoto company, which is, again, another Bitcoin treasury company.
That's about as big a rise as Fire Gary Gensler getting last summer.
So the executive order establishing the strategic Bitcoin reserve does allow the government to purchase more if it can be done in a budget neutral way. So specifically, if either the Commerce Department or the Treasury Department can figure out how to fund it without adding to the debt, then they are allowed to create those programs. So if we can convince 𝗙𝗵𝗪𝗏, who's the Commerce Secretary, or Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, to buy some, and they can figure out how to fund it, without a new tax or without adding to the debt, then maybe find the money from some other program that's not using it, then we could potentially acquire more Bitcoin.
Wow, love it.
I think it is. I think it's. So I think it pretty much is going to happen. As I said today, big day. JD Vance actually speaking. I wonder if 𝗕𝗕 will actually manage to get JD Vance for an interview. I back 𝗕𝗕 for this. Josh, do you back 𝗕𝗕 on this? I back 𝗕𝗕. If there's anyone in the world that can actually do it, I'm sure 𝗕𝗕 is going to do it. He's actually with my producer there. His name's Adrian. Adrian's like the best producer in the world. The two of them together, deadly fucking combination. And I back them 100% to actually do it. Anyway, so we did talk about GameStop and the fact that they landed up buying 10% of their balance of the cash in their balance sheet, or a little bit under 10, about 8, because they raised another $1.5 billion, as one of our researchers actually pointed out. Another thing which is probably worth noticing, and remember I said to you in the beginning that the next move has to be up. It has to be up. It might not be up today or tomorrow. I think I want to just hopefully just stay above this trend line if we can. I mean, it's not really bad. This is a very short-term trend line. It's a daily trend line. I want to try and stay above this trend line. But even if we don't, if you look at what's happening in the long term, so all the things that I've just spoken to you about now, plus you look at this and you say, okay, this is fact, right? China's M2 money supply just hit an all-time high. Japan's M2 money supply just hit an all-time high. EU's M2 money supply just hit an all-time high. US's M2 money supply just hit an all-time high. Pretty much, no matter how you want to call it, there's more money in circulation than there's ever been. And the thing is that the money in circulation, we've all been following the global M2 money supply chart. We've all been following the chart that Raoul Pal actually made famous, if you want to call it that. And I see a lot of people talking about, but we had a kink in the M2 money supply. It doesn't work like that because, yes, the lag is a general lag, right? So you had a general lag in the M2 money supply. Now that the M2 money supply is here, generally the tide pretty much has to be up, right? And the reason why the tide has to be up is because if you look at what is this M2 money supply, it's the money supply of all nations denominated in US dollars. So now you have a double whammy that's actually happening. The first thing is, number one, all of them hit an M2 a money supply. A higher money supply. The US is at its highest money supply ever. Japan's at its highest money supply ever. China's at its highest money supply ever. The euro is at its highest money supply ever. The other problem is that if you look at the currency, the dollar is actually collapsing. And so you're getting a double whammy because you're getting them increasing more money, but also the other currency is getting stronger relative to the dollar, which means that in dollars, the money supply is increasing even further. And we denominate Bitcoin in dollars. And because we denominate Bitcoin in dollars, effectively, it's a double whammy to get Bitcoin actually moving up, right? And that isn't going to stop. I mean, if you look at all the signs from everywhere, China's injecting new liquidity. Japan, we've done 5 or 6 shows on Japan, showing how Japan's injecting new liquidity. China's gone like batshit crazy in new liquidity. The US is in a bond pickle. Remember, we spoke about the US Treasury yields. Quickly look at what the 10-year is doing today. How do you get yourself out of this? Well, you start buying your own bonds. Like you buy your own bonds. Like it's simple. I mean, if this was an altcoin, let me ask you a question. If this was an altcoin, this altcoin over here, would you be? I mean, this is like the biggest uptrend I've ever seen. Now, I mean, there's a higher high from here to here. There's a higher low from here to here. Like I mean, it's all the signs in this chart are crazy. And the only way that the US actually gets themselves out of this is actually by printing more money. So I mean, going back to it. Here you've got all the major money supply countries and regions all actually increasing their money supply at the moment. All addicted to or have this insatiable demand for more cash to be printed. More cash being printed means you're devaluing the existing cash. It means that anything with a fixed supply will actually end up going up, which is why gold is going up, which is why Bitcoin's going up, which is why all of those things are going up. And I think that when you combine part A of the show, which is all these announcements and all these treasury companies coming in here with this crazy demand, and then you add to that the fact that there's more money in circulation. Okay, maybe we'll go down to 104, 102, 100. I don't really care because net, there's only one way, and the one way is up. And so it doesn't really matter whether we go to 102, 103, 105, 19. Who cares? Because you cannot fight. You cannot fight this. You cannot. This is not up for debate. Here are the charts. this is the amount of money in circulation. The only way Bitcoin doesn't go up is if for some reason we lose demand for this asset. How do you lose demand for this asset when there's new treasury companies coming along every single day with billions and billions and billions of dollars? And we've just started this trend. So like MicroStrategy, 21, MetaPlanet, those were like really, really, really early companies. There's going to be a sleuth of these companies all trying to buy these assets. And who are going to be the main custodians or the main beneficiaries of this? Obviously Bitcoin. I think ETH. I personally, I have been approached by 3 ETH treasury companies, all telling me that they got some kind of ETH leverage strategy to buy. This one has yield, and you can't believe the amount of yield, and 7x the amount of yield. Guys, the big assets are going to be the ones that actually benefit the most from this. Bitcoin, ETH, and now Solana. Those are the ones that are actually going to benefit. I think, to be honest, Bitcoin's going to obviously benefit the most. You want to talk about more liquidity, this time into the altcoin market. There is $5 billion of FTX recoveries or from the FTX money going into the market on May 30th, which is in 2 days. So on Friday. On Friday, there's going to be $5 billion paid by the FTX estate to the creditors of the FTX estate. And so what you're going to hear now on Twitter is you're going to hear a whole lot of the Twitter bros saying, yo, bro, there's $5 million coming into altcoins. Not exactly. Calm down. Slow down, Tiger. Why? Because I do think that this is, by the way, very, very bullish for altcoins. And it's actually a function of timing as to why this is bullish for altcoins. One is Bitcoin's at an all-time high. 2 is you've got an ETH BTC breakout. So you look at the ETH B. Like if this money would have come into the market in the midst of a bear market, I would have said, you know, it's water off a duck's back. It's not going to matter. But you've just had this ETH recovery and this ETH breakout. You've got Bitcoin at all-time highs. And the people that were speculating on FTX, this wasn't 𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘𝗗 buying his Bitcoin on FTX. This was degens buying with us. So now the question is, how much of that $5 billion is actually going to go back into the market, and how much of it's going to go back into the altcoin market? There's one unknown here, and the unknown is how many of these people actually sold their claims to agents. Because remember, there were agents going around and saying, hey, if you had money on FTX, I'll buy this from you. I'll give you the money now, and when you get paid by the estate, you'll give me the money, right? I would imagine that best case scenario, $1 billion flows into the market. Best case scenario. I'd imagine that 80% of it is money that is either with claims agents or money where people are going to just withdraw it. And so in my calculation, Stag Hunter says he sold his claim last year. Stag, tell us how much you got for your claim. You probably got like 96, 97%, right? Let us know. Stag is one of the guys that watches the show here. Last year. So yeah, last year. All right, so that's that. I think what we need to look at tonight is we need to all eyes on NVIDIA. So because remember, we've got their earnings tonight after the bell. So tonight after the bell, we have NVIDIA earnings. Yesterday after the bell, NVIDIA actually started to pump. Let's see what NVIDIA is actually doing today. There's never insider leaks here, but you know that NVIDIA usually for the last like 9 or 10 quarters has always beaten its expectations. NVIDIA 135.21. It is actually slightly down on the day. Slightly down. But I think we need to watch this thing into the close. If NVIDIA doesn't deliver, you know, the Nasdaq's going to take a crack. If it does deliver, the Nasdaq takes a bit of a spike. NVIDIA normally delivers, guys. So let's say that they have a reputation of actually delivering. And remember that this is like the first down earnings per share that they're actually forecasting. Why? Dark Intel, you say AI pump coming from NVIDIA. I don't agree with you. The data shows, and the researchers, can you quickly send me that chart? Usually, the coins pump into the earnings, not out of the earnings. And if you look at the 1 week, so you can see WorldCoin's already pumped. You can see that, yeah, I'll show you another one here. You can see all the ones that have already pumped, all the other ones that have already pumped. Let's just see, maybe in the top 300. So a lot of the AI tokens have already pumped. I'm not expecting any moves here. All right, I did say that there's one altcoin ecosystem that we need to talk about. It is an altcoin that actually is in my portfolio and was in my model portfolio, right? By the way, I've got some great news for you around model portfolio. So we've actually partnered up with a platform which is going to allow us to create passive portfolios, not copy trading. So like not trading in and out, but for people who just want to hold a portfolio. We've partnered up with a platform. We'll launch that platform very, 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 very soon for you guys to see. But it's an amazing, amazing, amazing platform. Anyway, one of the tokens in my portfolio is Telegram, TON. And you can see that TON actually had a massive spike today. It went from $3 all the way up to $3.70. Very, very, very interesting announcement here. So 2 announcements around Telegram today. And this is why I think you need to start paying attention to TON. So the first announcement was just a very generic announcement. Telegram to raise $1.5 billion in a bond deal expected to include BlackRock, 𝗙𝗏𝗡𝗪, and 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏. So they are looking to raise money. The second thing that they announced, and they announced this within 24 hours, and this is where I think you guys need to understand. So they announced this within 24 hours here. So they announced that Telegram and x.ai, which is obviously Twitter or Twitter's AI, have agreed to a 1-year partnership to distribute Grok to Telegram's billion-plus users and integrate it into its app. Telegram will receive $300 million in cash and 50% of the revenue from the x.ai subscriptions sold via Telegram. So it's basically like a referral deal where x.ai and Telegram have basically partnered up to distribute Grok, basically to distribute the Elon's AI, which is amazing. This is like, it's all about distribution, and Telegram have just again proven their distribution. So why do I say we need to start looking at this token? Because this token has been too quiet for too long. And when a token or when a company starts announcing you can see Frontrunners actually announced it this morning, May 28th, that's this morning, 11:18 a.m. And this came out at 2:04 p.m. So when you get 2 announcements in very, very, very close succession, what you know is that the company is on an objective. They're trying to do something. And so what I think is going to start happening now is I think you're going to hear a lot more from Telegram or from TON. And we haven't heard a lot about TON because the last time we heard, their founder was basically taken to a jail in France, right? And that's when the token price was here at about $8. And now the token price is less than half of that. But now what you're starting to see is the power of the distribution. So like, I don't think Elon's an idiot to pay $300 million plus. It's not only $300 million, it's plus 50% of the fees, probably in perpetuity from the sales of the Grok. So why is Elon doing this? 1, distribution. And 2, remember with AI, the more data you have, the more users you have, the smarter the AI actually becomes. So Elon's going, hold on a second, am I willing to pay $300 million to get more users onto my AI, to train my AI at this early stage of the game? And the answer is obviously yes. And that's why they're willing to do these amazing deals. Now, who's the custodian here? Telegram is the custodian. And somehow we believe that somehow the TON token or the ecosystem will benefit from all of these deals. So keep an eye open for TON. I mean, by the way, all of this news, every single bit of this news, you could have got here way, way, way before the show in the newsroom, and also you could have traded on it immediately. So like, you get the news, you can actually trade on it. I want to actually show you something because Josh came to him this morning. He's like, bro, did you manage to catch the CETUS trade? I'm like, no, I didn't catch the CETUS trade. There's a whole thing around SUI lending CETUS money to fund their treasuries, right? But if you were on Banter Bubbles and you were on the newsroom, and it's free, so it's not like I'm shilling you something, it's completely free. So you see, like I have to take you back to like, what is the mission here at Banter? The mission here at Banter is to build the most profitable community in the world. How do we do that? We want to give you as many tools as we can to make you rich. So we've got like the bubbles, right? Now, what's the point of the bubbles? The bubbles is to bring you the news very quickly and to show you what the news is doing to the price move. So here you watch the news and here you watch the price moves at the same time. And then as soon as you can see the price moves, and you can actually go to the live price moves over here. As soon as you see the price moves, now you can actually, if you integrate your exchange, you can actually trade. And if you don't, then you can just get a referral here. But you can actually trade directly from the bubbles on the news that's actually coming out, which gives you an edge. So as soon as you you see this news actually coming out, you can put through the trade. And that gives you an edge. And that's like a new sector of trading. It's called news trading. And we're going to go big into news trading now. You'll hear a couple of announcements in the next couple of weeks around news trading. So It's about making the community rich. How do we make the community rich? Well, number one, we have that tool. We have Frontrunners. I actually, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to log on to Frontrunners and I'm going to look at the bragging rights. And I want to see how many people actually made money from the ton trade, which was called in Frontrunners. Just for bragging rights. Let's find the bragging rights channel. Yeah, bragging rights. Let's quickly look at it. I haven't looked at this. Like, this is the first time looking at it. Okay, wait. Let's see how many people actually caught the ton. There's so many bragging rights. Okay, guys, let's just go jump to present. Okay. Okay, so 𝗏coin. So anyone caught the 𝗏coin? Because ton and 𝗏coin will actually move in synchronicity, right? In a synchronous way. Ton, bang, another 𝗙𝗏𝗀𝗪 smash ton. 70% here. Okay, this is convex and 𝗙𝗵𝗹𝗆. Another one, 50% here. Yeah, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗪 was vocal pending ton move. Now that he had the position before the recent news, patience paid off. Legends. Guys, if you're not part of Frontrunners, you're losing money every single day. If you want to join, there's a link below. Use the link below. If you don't like it within 1 month, leave and take your money back. But if you do like it, join part of the best community in the whole wide world. Seriously, the whole wide world. Let's actually see where else people have been making money. Launch coin, okay. Jupiter. There's a lot going on. Anyway, listen, guys. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.